Hi, I'm Vince Hoover, Supervisor of Mathematics at Schuylkill IU 29, and I'm also in the Principal Certification Program at Edinboro University. And I'm currently in my secondary principal internship, and I'm doing that at North Schuylkill's district in Ashland, Pennsylvania. And right now I'm working with Ken Roseberry, the secondary principal, and the superintendent, Dr. Robert Ackel. And right now what I'm studying at the school is answering this question. And it's kind of a long question, but basically I'm looking at the correlation between a student's growth mindset, which we'll get into, and their growth on two Keystone exams. That's the kind of question we're looking at. We're looking at students in high school that have taken two Keystone exams. It could be a bio, it could be algebra, it could be literature, and then we're looking at their next Keystone exam score and comparing that to their growth mindset score. And we'll talk about how we get to that number in a second. So to answer this question though, it's measuring multiple different things. We're talking about the student learning is being addressed here, their demographics, how they're brought up and where they're coming from, and also their perceptions on schooling. So first of all, I need to answer the question, what is mindset? What am I referring to when we're talking about a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? And basically this is Carol Dweck. She's a Stanford University professor, and she wrote this book called Mindset. She's a psychologist there, and she's focusing on how students actually learn and what is the best way to kind of approach that topic. And there's been many books based on this since then. A book by Angela Duckworth called Grit, another one by Joe Bowler called Mathematical Mindsets, and one I just finished reading by George Couros, The Innovator's Mindset. And this is really big in education right now, and so I wanted to kind of study how this kind of interacted with a student achievement. So again, there's kind of in the book it talks about growth mindset and fixed mindset, and the two are very different things. So someone who has a growth mindset thinks that their intelligence, their skills, their talent, it can all be developed. I can always learn more and gain more knowledge. But if you have a fixed mindset, you kind of think your intelligence is totally fixed, and that's where you're going to be. You're not going to get any smarter, you're not going to get any more talented, and you're kind of just, you are where you are. Someone with a growth mindset embraces challenges, they want to take on that next thing. And on the opposite side, a fixed mindset, they're avoiding challenges. They don't want to look silly, so they're avoiding anything new and challenging. And then feedback also plays into it. Again, a fixed mindset is going to not like feedback. They're going to get angry when you see feedback. When a person that is growth mindseted, they want to learn from that feedback. That criticism is going to help them to grow and to get better. And then, again, effort also plays into this too. Someone with a growth mindset is going to put effort to get better at whatever skill it might be, whereas someone with a fixed mindset is going to give up. They don't want to look silly, like I said before, and they don't want to handle adversity. They'd rather shy away from it. So what I kind of was measuring was a student's growth mindset score, which we used a survey. It was basically a continuum of 20 questions, and then they scored themselves between a 0 and a 4. And I compared that to their Keystone growth on two tests. So if we look at a graph here, we see that if they scored towards this side on the x-axis, they're going to have positive growth on the Keystones. If they're on this side, they had negative growth. They actually went down on the second test. And then for the growth mindset, that's on our y-axis here, they had a strong growth mindset. If they scored themselves up by the 60s or the 50s, they rated themselves as having a very strong growth mindset. And if they're on the lower side, they had a very fixed mindset. And that's how they kind of viewed themselves. So we had about 60 pieces of data, 60 students at the school that took two tests, and this is kind of where all of their data was kind of plotted. So if we put a trend line on there to kind of see kind of a line of best fit for correlation, it's not real strong or kind of little correlation between the two in the sample size that I did. I realized that once I took out a couple of the outliers, it went up just a little bit. So it was at a 0.04, now it's at almost a 0.1 correlation, which is still a weak correlation for the sample size that I had. But we can see that there is some kind of connection. It is going that direction as we move it towards the right side. Students that had a higher growth a growth of like 40 to 50 points in here rated themselves as having, you know, a 40 to 50 as a growth mindset. But there are some students over here that also rated themselves really high, and they made negative growth. So what are my findings based on that survey and analysis? But basically, you can see that there's not a whole lot of correlation. It's not strong by any means. But I think it was a pretty small sample size. And the sample size that I did use, those 60 students, were students that took the test twice. So they already had not passed the Keystone exam, because if you pass the Keystone exam, you're not going to take it again. These are students that did not pass the first time, so they were taking it again. So the population that I'm using are students that are lower achieving students to begin with, and then we're testing them and kind of see their growth mindset, which is what I just kind of do there. And I also noticed that the survey that I was using, it allowed the students to evaluate themselves and reflect on themselves. But I noticed most students value themselves very, very high and towards that growth mindset, which is a great thing to see. But I'm wondering if that's not really necessarily the truth. Potentially an interview might be a better way to figure out their growth mindset or fixed mindset. The survey itself, they might have just rated themselves high based on their classmates nearby them, or that particular day. But I'm thinking an interview with these students might have been a stronger picture of that student if I did it again. So my findings, though, there's a lot of sources. That book included had a lot of research based on studies that have been done that show that mindset has a large role in a student's achievement levels. So I'm thinking that this is still a really powerful topic. And so what my plan is in the future. Anyway, let me get into this next slide here. For the future, what I'm planning on doing next is planning a 2-day professional development training. It's going to be a book study with some of my colleagues, and we're going to be targeting this training for administrators and teachers alike, because there is some value in creating growth-minded students as well as growth-minded teachers. And I also was thinking about doing this study in a little bit different context, doing this with teachers, getting their growth mindset or fixed mindset score based on an interview and a rubric of some kind, and then comparing that to their PVOS score, maybe over the last 3 years, like a 3-year rolling average, to see if the students or the teachers that had a higher growth mindset or also teachers that were more impactful in growing their students because of their view on education and their view on their students. So it's not how I pictured it would turn out, but again, I learned a lot from this process, and look forward to learning more. Thanks a lot.